And I'm going to share my screen here. All right. So welcome to this training on the use of American on course. My name is Guillermo de la Parra. I'm an academic consultant for University of Dayton Publishing, and well, I'll be leading this session today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Um, if you have any doubts at any point, feel free to interrupt me either by writing on the chat, by opening your mic if you have the possibility, or by raising your hand. I'm more than glad to answer all of your questions to the best of my ability. So without further ado, let's start with our training. So American on course. The objectives of today's session are to explore the methodology and the concepts behind the series, to understand how to integrate both physical and digital components to teach a class, and to understand each of the lessons in the unit. And to the best of my abilities, I'll try to give you some tips for implementation. Okay, with that said, let's start with the concept. So usually when we do this live, when we are in the same room, I like to ask around, what do you think? What do you know about the series? What do you know about the concept? What does the name American on course tells you? So maybe we can try that now. What do you know about the series, or what does the name American on Course tell you um, about this series, this book? Again, you can use the chat. You can open your mic if you can. Um, but in general, I would like to know to assess where are we? What do we know about this series? It's okay if you tell me I don't know anything. I just know the name. It's the first time I'm using this book. Um, but what I would like you to do is to tell me some of your guesses just from the name American on Course. What do you think our series is about?
In my case, I sorry. In my case, I made a booklet about your book because the school asked us to
Mhm.
make a booklet about the books that we work with the students, and I I knew the book, and I had the opportunity to know that book, and I think it's a good book. It has a good level, so I would like to know more about how to work with it.
Okay, fantastic. I also see teacher Letty. Oh, she's gone now. Okay, no problem. Well, firstly, I would like you to know that this book has as a general objective to work with our students to develop a lot of different skills, not just language skills, but also skills that they can apply later in life. And the idea is that, of course, we are using American English, hence the name American, of course, but we are focusing the use of the language on problem solving skills and skills that can be, again, used later on in life. So that's why we named it American On Course. And we have 5 levels in total. Depending on which levels you are working with, it is where you will find yourself at in this scale. But we have 5 levels that go from A1 plus to a B2. The first 2 levels, A1 plus and A2, cover more of an intercultural approach, and they cover intercultural lessons. And levels B1, B1 plus, and B2 cover more of a cross-curricular kind of approach. Um, so this will leave us with a very good level with our students, and very competitive in general for them to be prepared for whatever next step is for them in their lives, whether they are going on to high school or to university. A B2 level, as you very well know, is the bare minimum that we need to develop ourselves in a working environment or in a university environment in any part of the world, actually. All right. Um, Talking about the concepts behind the series, we want our students to become responsible, to become aware of their own responsibility towards their learning. Um, because in this stage of development, they being teenagers, we really need them to be focused on becoming the center of all of their efforts, the center of their learning, and not just because we have to have a class in English or we have to have a series of activities in my day. We want them to be aware that this is important, that this is a useful tool, that these abilities and these skills will be helpful for them later on in life. Also, we want to develop what we call soft skills. You might find them mentioned throughout the book in different ways and in different parts of literature in general, as soft skills, working skills, 21st century skills, the four C's. But in a gist, these soft skills are the kind of skills that are not directly related to academic content, but that are necessary for people to develop themselves with others. You know, with other people in a work environment, in a group environment, in an academic environment, and they relate to thought processes like critical thinking, time organization, um, but also creative thinking, communication skills, etc. And of course, we also want to develop the four basic language skills: the reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So those are the concepts that support the series. Now, how do we do this? What is the methodology that supports our series? Well, we can start by talking about global citizenship. This is going to be a very important concept, not only for this series, but in general for our students and in general for education in the following years. I cannot tell you from when to when, but I can tell you that this is going to be very, very important for us in education for a very long time. Why? Because we are preparing our students to become citizens of the world, to become integral part of their community, their local community, but also the global community. Because more and more they are going to start relating themselves with people from different cultures, with people from different regions of the world, of the country, from different backgrounds and different cultures. So they have to be aware of how to interact with others, but also that their actions and their role in society has a general impact in the world, in the environment, in the economy, in global politics, in all of these aspects. Right? So we want them to be prepared for this future that we don't really know much about, but we do know that will involve them being relating to other people. And again, 21st century skills are going to be necessary, especially the four main skills, which are creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, what we call the four C's. And 21st century skills refers to a wider framework of skills, but those are the four more important, most important, and the ones that we will be talking more about. American, of course, is also based on a project-based approach. So we are going to find that there is a lot of project work through every unit, which will involve them applying those 21st century skills. So my projects necessarily are the application of not only the language that I'm learning, but also these skills that I'm developing. All right, so far with these concepts, with this methodology, are there any questions, any doubts, anything that you want to clarify? Okay, if not, I'll move on. If you do have some questions, again, open up your mic or write on the chat, raise your hand, and I'll try to address those. So the components. Let me talk about both the physical components and the digital components. Um, Depending on how much time you have available for your classes and well, the resources that you have available in your classroom and in your community is the combination that you will make with these components. But in general, my students will be working with three main resources. One is the student's book, the other is the practice book, and finally, their student's book comes with a multi-ROM, which is a CD with interactive activities. Because this series has been around for quite some time, it still comes with this physical CD, but worry not because everything that comes on that CD is also available on the digital learning environment. I will talk about that in just a moment. But just to be clear, our students will be working with these physical components, mainly the student's book and the practice book. My student's book will focus on the analysis of the topics of my series, sorry, of the topic of my unit. Um, we will have most of the practice there for listening, for speaking, for grammar, for vocabulary, and again, for the understanding of this general topic. And my practice book, as the name suggests, uh, will focus mainly on practicing, reinforcing, and crystallizing everything that has been learned during the lesson and through the use of the student's book. Then you, on your side, will have your teacher's guide that also comes with a class CD. But again, this class CD and everything that it contains lives also in this digital space, our learning environment. And you will also have access to assessment materials. I'll explain those in just a moment. Some reference materials and some worksheets that you can use to, again, reinforce and extend the learning. And of course, we have a digital component that I want to present before we move on to the unit walkthrough. So once again, I'm going to stop my screen share and I'll share again, but in this case, I'm going to show you the digital learning environment. Okay, so this is our digital learning environment. It is called SM Aprendizaje. And this is going to be one of your best friends because most of the tools that you will need, most of the tools that you will be using throughout your course live in this space. Um, I just gave you on the chat the URL, the address for this digital environment, login.smaprendizaje.com. I will explain how to use it. I want to show you how to use it from the get-go, from the starting point, which is registering, creating your account, validating your licenses. I also want to show you how to work online and offline, because we do have this possibility of using an online version of this platform and an offline version. So let's start with the basics, creating our account. For the first time, probably many of you already have your account created, but if you have not, this is the process. It's very simple. For the first time, I just have to go to the address that I just gave you, login.smaprendizaje.com, and click on this link here that says you still do not have an account, sign up. Todavía no tienes una cuenta, regístrate, depending on if the page is on English or in English or in Spanish. If I click here, I get the possibility to choose between a student's profile and a teacher's profile. Both work very similar, but have access to different elements. In this case, we are working with our teacher's profile. So let's click on teachers. And the next step will be to choose the country that we are located at. In this case, Mexico. Click on next. And then we have to give some basic information. It asks for our name. So I'm going to enter my name, Guillermo, and my surname, De La Parra. Then it asks for my position at school. So maybe I am the coordinator, I am the manager, the I don't know, the principal. But in this case, I'm going to choose teacher. It doesn't really matter. It's just like in general to know who you are and to tailor your profile a little better. Then it asks for your language, your preferred language. You can choose either Spanish or English. I personally prefer to work in English, but if you prefer to work in Spanish, that is okay. I mean, it's your profile, you decide, nobody's going to know. So click your profile, click your language, and that's it. Next on, we have to select our school. For that, we first need to look for our state or province. In this case, I am right now in Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City. So I'm going to select that. Then my town or my municipio or my city. In the case of Mexico City, we don't have municipios, we have alcaldías. So I'm going to choose Benito Juárez, which is my alcaldía right now. And then I have to select my school. This comes linked to the registration of your school in our systems. So it's going to be very easy to find it. You just have to start typing the name of your school, and you're going to see that the moment that I type the first letter, I get a drop-down menu with a bunch of different options with all the schools in Benito Juárez that are registered. Uh, but if I want to narrow my search, I can continue typing. And here I find my school, Colegio Pruebas, my test school. You get the address, the postal code, and you can actually go ahead and click on the map to check if the address is correct. And if everything is correct, then you can click on next. Then you have to provide an email address. This can be any kind of email address, but my recommendation here is that you use an email address that you have access to, because you are going to receive a validation email. Okay, this validation email is for you to validate the account, to see that you are you and you have access to that email. So I recommend that you use either your personal account or your work account if you have one provided by the school. But in whichever case, an account that you have access to. Okay, so I give my email here. I repeat my email over here. And then I click on, I accept privacy policy, the terms of use, you do the usual. And if you want to receive any other communications from our part, uh, click on the other option. Then you will click on finish registration. This will take you to the next page, which is to create your password. It's a new password that has to be secure for this account and this account only. Um, Later, you will receive an email with with a link for you to validate your account. Let me show you an example of this. But no, with a different account. It looks something like this. So, hello, your name. Welcome to SM Aprendizaje. Please click on confirm email to continue the registration process. So you have to click on confirm email, and this takes you back to our main page. You have confirmed your email, and then you click on enter. And this takes you back to the main page. Okay, so now that you have created your account, as you can see, this is a very simple process, and this would be very similar to the process that our students have to do to create their own accounts. Then you will give your user, which is your email, and your password, the password that you created, and click on enter. Once I click on enter, I can access, well, I get a caption now. I can access my space. Okay. As you can see, my licenses have to be renewed because these are from the last school year. But in general, this is how it looks like on the inside. Um, the first time that you log in, the first time that you open your account, you are not going to see your materials loaded um, because this is a new account. What you have to do is validate your codes or licenses using this button over here, the one that says codes or licenses. And you're going to provide the alphanumerical code that comes inside your teacher's guide. Okay, it's on the inside cover of your teacher's guide. It's a 16-digit alphanumerical code that looks very similar to this. And you have to write it here, including the dashes. And it's important to remember that this code can only be used one time, meaning that you cannot share this code with other teachers. Each one of you will have to provide a specific code. Once you have written down the code, you have to click over here. I have read the conditions of use, and then click on validate. Once you click on validate, you will see that the cover of your level appears over here. And you can validate as many licenses as you need. So maybe you are teaching all 5 levels, you can validate 5 different licenses. Or maybe you are teaching just a couple, you can validate just the two. Okay. Sometimes it might take a couple of minutes for the information to load. It's perfectly normal. It's usually very quick, but I've seen in some cases that it takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes. But again, depending on the speed of my computer, the speed of my internet connection, the amount of traffic that we have at that very moment on the site, you might see some variances here. I've seen a couple of cases in which it takes 40, 50, maybe an hour, but just know that this is perfectly normal for the first time when I validate my licenses. Once they are validated, you are going to have access 24/7, no matter what. Okay, now that I have this, I can go ahead and click on whichever level. Let's take B1 as an example. And you will see that you have two main sections. One is called content and one is called teacher resources. And this is the same for all 5 levels. Let me explore the teacher resources first, and then we come back to the content. In this section, you're going to find, firstly, the reference materials. They also come in your physical teacher's guide, but just for you to have a very quick access over here and that you can show them to your students. You have your grammar reference, the irregular verbs list, and the maps. These maps are used for the cross-curricular classes, and you can show them on your projector or your screen. You can print them and photocopy them if you want to use them with your students. The same with irregular verbs and the grammar reference. Right? So we have the same information that we have on the physical side, and it comes developed module by module. And it comes with the explanation of all the structures um, that are taught in each module. And well, just for you to have as reference. Then you will find all the audios for the entire course numbered. You can play them directly here or just use them as reference.
Track 14, Module 5, page 51.
Okay, so we have them stored over here. And if I go back to my contents, I'm going to see that I have a presentation of the course. This section that is called About This Course gives you a general introduction to to the course in the form of your scope and sequence. The scope and sequence is going to be a very useful tool because it presents you with this kind of annual or yearly planning. It develops module by module, module by module, each one of the 4 main lessons of my units. Uh, and it shows you the structures, the vocabulary, the functions, and the project that will be covered in each one. So you have a very general, broad overview of the entire course from module 1 to module 10. So you know very quickly what are the structures that I'm working with, so meaning the grammar, what are the vocabulary topics that I'm covering, the functions, like in functional speech, and the project that I have to develop. Okay, so you can use this as part of your planning process. And well, you will also find some very general technical information about the course. Let me go back to my contents, and then I can check any of my units. Let's say unit 3, just as an example. When I click on my unit, you're going to see that it is presented with 4 main sections. One is my e-students book. Then I have my teacher's guide. Then I have my digital resources and finally my assignments. So let's start by analyzing the student's book. The student's book comes presented as a digital version of the same book that my students will be working with some additions. So you're going to see mostly the same information that you find on the physical book with the addition of this. So some of my sections come in the physical book with the presentation of some exercises that my students can solve directly on the book. But if I'm working in a digital kind of classroom, if I'm projecting this, if I want to work with all of them at the same time Or if for some reason I'm using this to teach online lessons, I can come here and solve this same exercise online. Okay, so as you can see, we have the little hand icon over here. If I click here, I'm going to find the same activity, in this case, activity 13, uh, that helps me reinforce whatever concept, skill, or grammar point I'm working with the advantage that it's presented in different ways, depending on the level, depending on the unit. It can come in different forms. So sometimes it can be like this, relating the column. Sometimes it can be presented as a memory game. Sometimes it can be as complete the sentence, fill in the blank, open, close, etc. But whatever I do here, I get an instant feedback. I get a score of which of my answers were correct, and I can either see the answers or I can reset and start all over again. Okay, and the same will happen with all the different sections. Okay, so complete the sentence with the correct options, etc. Same thing will happen whenever I have a listening activity. So you will find sometimes for some of the lessons that you have some listening activities like this. They come in the physical book, they come marked with this headphones icon, meaning that you have a listening activity and a number. This is the number of the track. So in this very particular case, we're working with track number 7. But if I come here, I will find that I also have the possibility of clicking directly on this icon to play the track number 7.
Track 7, Module 3, page 28. Shopping for clothes.
Paul is going to a party on Friday night, so he asks Robert to go shopping with him and help him choose something to wear.
Okay, so that's very helpful if we want to work with our students using this digital version of our book. Now, additionally to all of this, we have some text manipulation tools. On the right corner of my students book view, I have 3 main tools. The first one is the comments. I can use this as sort of a digital post-it note that I can use to mark important information, whether I'm using it to describe something to my students, or I like to use those whenever I'm planning a lesson. So I feel if I'm working with the physical book, I use traditional post-it notes and I paste them all over my book. But if I'm using the digital version, I like to use this just to remind me of information that I need to remember. You can even use the color code. So maybe, for example, red means that this is something important that I cannot forget, or blue means that, uh, it's related to my vocabulary. It's a vocabulary point. And these notes, these comments will stay here wherever I put it for as long as I want. So I can log out and log in to my account, and this will remain here. And I can always access it as long as I don't erase it. It will stay here forever. So I can access it either by double clicking on it or by clicking on the side panel on the 3 dots. Additionally to this, I have my digital pen that I can use with different sizes and different colors to mark my page, to draw directly on the page. So maybe I want to make a point on one of the elements, or I can also use the shapes over here. We have a square, and a circle just well to mark important information. So rain over here. And again, these elements will stay here for as long as I need them. And finally, we have the text properly, the text manipulation tools. The first one is for us um, to highlight the text. The second one is for underlining. We can also cross out or use the other kind of squiggly underline, again, to mark important information. And again, they will stay here as long as I don't erase them. But if I do want to erase them, I can do that one by clicking on each one, or I can do them all with the pin icon. So once again, this is very helpful if I'm showing the book to my students using my projector, my screen, or if I'm planning my lesson using this. Okay, so that's my student's book. Then I move on to the teacher's guide. Teacher's guide, it's basically the same. You're going to have a copy, a digital copy of your teachers with the same information that you have on the physical one. So you have the interleaving, meaning you see what your students are seeing, and you have your lesson plan, your proper lesson plan. No? Starting with the warm up, with each of the activities, with the answers, with everything that you need for each of the activities, for each of the lessons. And additionally, you also have your your text manipulation tools over here. Moving on, we have the digital resources. In these digital resources, we find them divided into two, for the teacher and for the students. In the section for the teacher, you're going to find some of your best friends. The test for each unit and the answer key for that test. This test is presented like so uh, in a PDF document. So you can just download it and photocopy it. It actually comes with, it's a booklet with all the unit tests for the entire year. So you can just download the entire document and photocopy each test as you go. And they also come with their answer keys. So if I go back to this section, I'm going to find the answer key for all of my tests. So test 1, test 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. For the practice book. So you have all of your answers in one document. What else do we have? The supplementary materials. These supplementary materials are a series of worksheets. Again, it's a booklet with a bunch of worksheets that you can download and print, photocopy, and give to your students. They come marked with the module and the lesson. So you can download all of them at once and just print them as you need them. So those are my supplementary materials. And then I have my practice book. This practice book, again, a digital version of the physical practice book that I can show my students with the same text manipulation tools that I've shown you. So we can work all together using the screen or what have you. And I also have the possibility of adding new resources. In this section that is called My Resources, here I can add new material additional to the material that my book already has. So I can, for example, click on add a personal resource, and we can see that we have the possibility of adding audios, documents, videos, web links, and images. As long as we don't surpass this 10 megabyte limit per file, we can pretty much upload any kind of file that we want and as many as we want. So let's say that I want to prepare a series of worksheets for my students to work throughout the unit. So I would like to upload documents, just give it a title, attach it from my computer, and either make it visible to my students in that moment, so that they have instant access to it, or maybe not. Maybe I want to upload all of them at first and make them visible as we move on. Okay, so you decide. I see a question on the chat. I have a doubt about the test. I'd like to know if they include the 4 abilities: listening, reading, speaking exercises, and writing on them. So yes, we can check that over here. And I'm going to show you the other kind of test that we have. So as you can see, they focus mainly on the grammar points that we have covered in the units. And they also come um, with a dialogue, sorry, a listening activity with the vocabulary. And yes, mainly they use the use of English with a little bit of reading, with a little bit of vocabulary and grammar. But if I go back to my content, instead of unit 3, I'm going to go back to unit 2. You're going to find that every 2 units, you have these other kind of tests. They are called classroom tests, and they come in version A and version B. And these are review tests for both units, so modules 1 and 2, and they come divided into grammar, vocabulary, sorry, just grammar and vocabulary. But this gives you more than enough, because you know that testing these 2 skills give you more than enough to also evaluate the reading and the listening. We work with that more using the practice book. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Finally, we have the assignments. If I go to the assignment section, I'm going to find two main points. One is the interactive activities. So these are basically the same activities that I found on the, what's it called, the student's book, sorry, I find here. So we have the same activities that we have on the student's book over here, with one big difference. As you can see, I have this assign button at the bottom of each one, meaning that as long as I have registered my students into my class, and I will show you how to do that, I can assign these activities. They get a notification that they have this kind of homework activity. This can be classwork, but also homework. And if they complete it, I can then download a report of each of my students, like a follow-up of all my students, with information of if they completed the activity, when, and what was the score. So in this profile, I don't have any students. I have 2 groups created, but I don't have any students yet. But if I did, I would see all the names of my students over here, and I can either select all of my students at the same time, so my entire class, or just click on some individual students for them to complete it, right? And I can also add some specific suggestions for students that need reinforcement. So I see that, I don't know, Pablo needs some reinforcement in a grammar point. Um, so we want to create a worksheet for Pablo to practice on this. I can come here, add a proposal as an assignment, and maybe create this worksheet, upload it here, and say, Pablo, you need to complete it before the 15th of next month. Add it, assign it to that specific student. Okay, so as you can see, we have some room to work with the digital space. Okay, what else? My students, my groups. How do I manage my groups? Okay, you're going to find on the top right corner that we have this icon that looks like a group of people. This is the space where I manage my groups. As you can see, I have already created a couple of groups to A to B, but let's say I want to create a new group. So I can click here on the create your groups button, very straightforward. And I already have to A to B. Let's create to C. Oh, to C. I immediately get a group code. This group code I will have to give my students, and I can do that in many different ways. One would be to show them when I'm creating the group, show them this screen. Or here I can select the information, copy, paste it maybe on an email, a WhatsApp message, what have you. Or if I click on create group, I'm going to see that I have one tab per group. The code is already here, but I can also come here and click on download group code. And this will take me to this screen in which I will find the same code. Again, I can show this to my students, or I can um, print the information. I can print this as a document that I can then photocopy and physically give to my students. They will have to follow these instructions. So go to the platform, create their account, and then click on join a group and enter the code. And if they do that, they will get a notification each time you, as the teacher, assign an activity. Okay, so that's basically it. Later, if I don't want to work with one of these groups, or at the end of the school year, I can come here and delete my groups. And as they move on and they complete the activities that I assign, I can come here and download the follow-up. This comes as an Excel spreadsheet file that you can download and check, all the names of your students with which activities they have completed and with the score that they get. So that's mainly it. Now, you might tell me, okay, but what about my school? My school does not have a very good internet connection, or sometimes we lose power, or sometimes we lose Wi-Fi. What can I do then? Okay, so you have a couple of options here. If I go back to my main screen, to my main profile screen, and I scroll all the way to the bottom, I'm going to find this link over here. That leads me to the page in which I can download this digital environment, but in the form of an app. I can download the app for Windows, Mac, Linux, or Chromebooks. So any kind of computer that I might be working with, unless you're working with a very obscure, strange operating system, in which case, well, I do not have a solution for you. But if you're working with Windows, with Mac, with Linux, or with a Chromebook, you can work with this app. Or you also have the option to download this same app for your phone or for your tablet, Android and Apple, directly from the App Store or the Google Play Store. You will find them as SM Aprendizaje, and you will recognize them before because they have this three book logo, the blue, yellow, and red logo. So you can download the app and access using the same user and the same password that you use on the page. So what is the difference between using the page and using the app? So let me once again share my screen, but this time I'm going to show you the app. So this is the desktop app. I have this app on my computer. And as you can see, I have my same profile with my same books over here. And so what is the big difference here? When I access this space, I'm going to find that my units are not yet available because they are, as you can see from this icon, they live in the cloud. So what I have to do is, let's say I want to work with unit 1, I have to download it. Okay, the first time I want to work with a unit, I have to download it. So I click over here, I say, yes, I want to download it. And you're going to see that it takes a couple of seconds, really. It's not a very lengthy process. So I can do this at home when I have a strong internet connectivity. And I download the unit. And once I have downloaded this now is in my computer. Or if I'm using the mobile app, this now lives in my phone. So all of the same information that I showed you online is now here living in my computer. The student's book, the teacher's guide, the digital resources, which include the digital activities, the projects, the tracks, the tests, the supplementary materials are downloaded onto my computer, meaning that I no longer need an internet connection. Okay, so all of this information is in my computer. I could right now actually turn off my Wi-Fi. Of course, I'm not going to do that because I would lose the call with you, but I have the possibility of even turning airplane mode and accessing all of my materials offline. And if you don't want to use all of the space in your computer with this material, once you have finished with the unit, you can come here, click on the bin, delete the unit, deleting, deleting, and now it's gone. So I don't have it anymore. And if I then want to go ahead and work with unit 3, I can do the same process, click on download, and I would have access to that unit. Okay, so you have access to those contents and to the teacher's resources that you can also download and have access offline, again, on your computer or on your phone. So you have three different options to work with the digital environment. All right. I hope this information so far has been helpful. Let me go back to my original presentation. And I move on to the unit walkthrough. But let me make a very quick pause to ask you, do you have any questions? Anything else that you want to know? Any more information that you might need? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, so I'll move on to the unit walkthrough. So I want to show you the basic structure of all units in all levels. We have a total of 10 modules. Each module covers 4 lessons. And each module also includes working on an online or a classroom project, the work with the four main skills of language, a review, and some lessons that can be intercultural or cross-curricular depending on the working with. My unit starts with the module opener, which is lesson 1, and that focuses mainly on reading and a reading comprehension activity. It also has some vocabulary, some grammar, some use of English, some listening. But the main objective of this first unit, of this first lesson, is to present the general topic of my unit and to work on reading. My second lesson, lesson number 2, focuses mainly on use of English. Again, it has some vocabulary, some reading, some grammar, some listening, some speaking, but it focuses mainly on use of English and it relates to the same topic. So in this case, the example is feelings and emotions. So my second lesson also talks about feelings and emotions, but in a context. In this case, sibling rivalry. Lesson 3 focuses mainly on speaking and listening. Again, using the same topic, but focusing mainly on the development of speaking and listening skills. And at the end of the lesson, we will find a writing task. The writing task can come in different ways and with different kinds of text and different formats, depending once again on the level and the unit that I'm working with. But if you're wondering where do I find the writing, the answer is here, lesson 3. Finally, lesson 4 is the cultural or the cross-curricular. In here, we are going to work with a case study of the topic of my unit, but linked to a specific field of knowledge. So in this case, could be because we are working with emotions, we go to biology, we connect with biology specifically with neurology to talk about emotions in the mind. This gives us the pretext to work with some review of the vocabulary and the grammar, some reading and reading comprehension, and some application, which comes in the form of my project. So my project can be developed either online or completely offline. In here you have the choice. Okay, but this is the project. My biggest recommendation here would be that you don't wait till the end of the module to start working on the project. My biggest recommendation here is that you present this project at the beginning of the lesson, of the first lesson, so you can give your students enough time. You know how teenagers are. You know that teenagers will complain at the end of the unit because, ay, teacher, es que se me juntó con el proyecto de biología y el de español y el de matemáticas y no me dio tiempo. So we know how teenagers work. So my recommendation is give them enough time, present the project at the beginning of the unit, at the beginning of the module, so they have enough time to follow each step. All right, and maybe you can devote some time at the end of each lesson or at the end of each section of your unit to work a little bit on the project so that by the end of lesson 4, you just have the presentation and the assessment of this. Okay, and finally, again, a reminder that you will have to use the digital environment to work with most of the material, with that is where you will find the assessment, Remember that you have one assessment per unit and then one every 2 units for reinforcement of these two elements that we mentioned just a moment ago. Okay. Any questions, any doubts, anything else that you would like to know? Please, please take advantage of this time to cover any and all of your doubts. Okay. If there are no doubts, if there are no questions, I'm going to ask you a very big favor, a very big favor from you. I just gave you on the chat a link. This link will lead you to an assessment of this lesson, of this session, an assessment of my performance. So please click on that link and complete the survey so you can assess the my performance today, the information that was given to you, and this will help us well improve for future sessions and to see if well if we are doing a good job. If you need any other support, if you would like to receive any other information from us, uh, etc., etc., etc. So please do that for me. Complete the survey that I just gave you on the chat, and once you have done that, well, I would like to thank you once again for being here, for your time, for your attention, and remind you that my name is Guillermo de la Parra. I'm an academic consultant, and I'm here to uh, to help you in any way of form.
Thank you, Guillermo. It was very, very useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad. I'm going to stop the recording now.